Good. So welcome to our team mastery for March. So good to have you on this. And for those that haven't been to our events before, it's a series of 6 that rotate every 3 months. Every one is slightly different because we have a different audience. And so I can sort of tailor it to the people that attend. And it's this one here. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll be running our customer mastery. So looking at repeat business, how do we get more referrals back into the company? So as we're kicking off, hopefully you've got your chat box there. You know, we've got a few people. So Gary, if you want to sort of, I know you haven't got a massive team at the moment, but you can sort of chip in as you want to. So first thing, yeah, is there something specific you want to get out of today? So Lee, what about with regard to team? What's important for you?
Team mastery, it's about, I suppose, for me, in my role, being able to get the best out of the people that we've got using the tools and the training that we've got available.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Neil?
Yeah, very similar, but I mean, I like the psychology of it, or, you know, when we did the sales one, it was very much the psychology of how people, you know, purchase, you know, and for me, it's about having understanding the person and the team dynamic between team members. We're looking at recruiting, and clearly we're a small team, we need the people in the business to get on with each other. You know, everyone's got different personality types, and we just want to make sure that, you know, maybe the personalities don't clash. There's a mix, and if there's a formula or something like that, or things that we need to put in place to make sure that the formula works, then you know, that's really about it for me.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely cover that in towards the end of the session. We look at sort of that side of things. So I think, you know, come to this every time, every workshop, you'll get to know and love this formula as much as I do. So E times do equals have. So what I want to have, my dreams and my goals, E is my attitude, knowledge and skills, and plan and the action, the activity that I actually do. So the physical, external, the internal, mental, and then the goals that we want to achieve. So like everything, you know, most important out of these 3 is always the have. You know, what goals do I actually want to achieve over the period that I've sort of set out? And then once I know the goals, then I know who do I need to be and what do I need to do. I think this is where people go wrong, certainly in the early stages of a business, because, you know, we're generally busy in the business, we're doing the work and we're recruiting people as well as doing the work. We never give ourselves enough time to be really clear what is it we want to have with our team. So first thing you've really got to understand is setting the goal of what you want to have. So what does a great team look like for you? You know, and actually write this down. You know, I want to build a team of people that, and the more you can write down and be specific, yeah, then what you're doing there is you're setting your reticular activating system. You know, I call that your RAS. So if you come to our self-mastery, I talked more about that in that workshop. But our reticular activating system is our compass. It's our filter that gets out all the rubbish and keeps us focused on where we want to go. So I had I've got I think you might have sort of heard about her, but she was on the group coaching the other day. But Kate has just started an online teaching business, and she's recruiting new teachers to actually provide the service. So we're getting them to do a video of, you know, of who they are and why they want to come and join this company, and she's come up with a term of, you know, a groovy goat type of person. She's looking for a groovy goat type of person, and she's got real clarity what this person looks like, so that when she gets these video recordings, she can go, well, that's a groovy goat person, that's not a groovy goat person. So a visualization of the type of person she wants, yeah, and the type of team of people that she wants to build is so clear that it becomes easier to actually create it. So whatever background we've come from, at some point in your previous life, you will have had experience of good teams and you would have experience of bad teams. So the key for this is to take all the bad things and flip them. So if you had something that was bad in a team you worked in, you would flip it. So Lee, is there a past company that you worked in that you have to mention the name, but there was a bad aspect of a team that you didn't like?
Yes, unorganized.
Unorganized. Okay, cool. So your flip of that is my perfect team is going to be a well-organized team.
Yep.
Okay, so there'll be things that you've come from that you love, and that's what I want to work in, and there'll be things that you hate. Just flip the ones you want to hate. Okay, and then you create that vision of what it should look like. Once you've got that written down, then you're assessing yourself and your team to that ideal on a regular basis. So how close to achieving that are we? If we're pretty low, if we're down here, then I've got some work to do. If I'm up here, everything's okay. We can always improve. We can always do that extra, 5%, 10%, but the majority of the time we will be at least on track towards that perfect team, if not, very close to it. So being clear what type of people is. The other thing you want to be clear of is what size of team are you aiming for? So when you set your budget for the year, and 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, at every point in your business growth, you should know the size of your team. What size team, what are the roles that will be filled? Who's my next employee that's going to come into this business? It's a little bit like you're building a football team, okay? And so imagine you're a manager of a football team. You always know who your next team member is going to be. Do I want a striker? Do I want a midfield person? Do I need a defender? Do I need a goalkeeper? Within football, it's which player is going to come off the pitch, and maybe transferred. Who am I going to put in there? Okay? No football team is sitting there waiting for somebody to walk off the pitch and then go, oh my God, I need to fill those boots. Anybody that leaves, they know, right, the next person, I know how to replace that person. So that's what we've got to think in our organization. Is what is it going to look like in the future? Where are the gaps? Who's my next employee going to be? And the beauty of doing that is you're never then in a situation where you're having to recruit too quickly. Because the worst thing is you need to recruit and then you just go and get a bum and you put a bum on a seat. Because if you haven't done your proper checks and your proper due diligence and your proper recruitment process, you may end up with the wrong person on that wrong seat. So once you're clear what your goals are, then it comes down to your beliefs, your be, and your actions, your do. So we've all got beliefs around our team, and employing people, okay, and actually building a team within our organizations. What we tend to find is we all have some negative beliefs. Okay, so just take a couple of minutes and write down 5 negative beliefs around building a team, or working in a team, or employing people, however you want to see it. What are 5 negative things that, when I say that, come to your mind? So just take a few minutes, write those down, and then we'll share a couple.
So Kevin, when you say negative beliefs, so from my point of view, so you're trying to, what are you trying to say? Negative beliefs within the team or for an individual, or?
So when I say to you about employing people and managing people, what are some negative beliefs you have around the people that you're managing and employing?
Okay.
So one could be they're always lazy. They're not as good as I am. Okay, I know you can't write anything down, Gary, so do you want to come off mute and share what one for you would be? You might not be able to, so
negative beliefs about your team. I think the first thing that come to mind is when I read that question is about the skill level of the person you're hiring. So it's whether you hire a person who's unskilled or skilled. So I don't know if that actually covers the 5 negative beliefs. But it just, for me, it's believing the skill set that they say they have, and then once they work, then you realize, oh, they kind of beefed up their CV a bit.
Okay, so the negative belief there would be, I believe that they aren't as skillful as they say they are. Whenever I take somebody on, they're never going to be as good as they say they are.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's a good one. Neil?
Whether they can work sort of unsupervised. I mean, in our business, it's very much, we're working at home, so we're on, we do communicate an awful lot, but it's are they, are people, can they work unsupervised? Are they working unsupervised?
Yeah. So if the negative belief then is, they always need hand holding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can never leave them on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lee?
One of them could be I don't think they follow procedures correctly.
Yep. Don't follow procedures. They make it up as they go along.
And they lack integrity sort of overall because of that.
Yeah. See, we'll always have these negative beliefs because our brain is set up to protect us. So if we see the worst in people, then we're never disappointed. Okay, but the problem is if we see the worst in people, then subconsciously we start repelling the good ones. Yeah, that we'll start seeing the negatives in those people that we want to go, and we'll actually put this sort of almost this barrier up so we don't let them into our organizations. And if those negative beliefs are strong enough, you end up not even trying to build a team. You're always seeing the bad in people, and therefore you just go, oh, it's just not worth it. There's no point taking people on because they're lazy, they don't do the work, they're going to be a handful, they don't follow systems, they always lie about their skills, and therefore what's the point? And even if you do take them on, those beliefs are so strong that when you actually see a negative, so they actually do something wrong, it just reinforces that negative belief. And you go, oh yeah, I knew they weren't any good. I knew they couldn't follow systems. No one I've ever taken will follow a system. And what happens is it basically becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, they end up, proving to you that you were right in the first place, and then you go, right, let's get rid of them, or you give up. If you can switch that and look for the positives and think of all of the positives that a great team can provide and start looking for the positives in people, then you will equally find those as much as you will the negatives, because nobody out there is perfect. Okay, it's a bit like when you have your partner for the first time, or for the first few years, everything they do is fantastic. They can't do anything wrong. There's no bad habits. You're head over heels in love with them, and after 5 or 10 years, all you seem to be able to see is the faults. And the more you focus on the faults, the more you see more faults, and that's why relationships sort of come apart. So you've got to come back to focusing on what's the good things in those relationships, so that it maintains that strength and keeps it together. And it's the same within a team. Okay, look for the positives of what they can bring, except there will be some negatives, but have ways to actually deal with those downsides. Don't let the negatives in taking people on stop you from building a team. And if you do find that they don't work out, great, replace them with somebody that is better, somebody that does fit your criteria. So we just got to be careful that these negative beliefs that we have around people in our organizations don't trip us up and stop us from actually even trying to build a team or failing too soon. Because when we build a team, you know, life is a mirror. Okay, life will actually give you back exactly what you put in. So if you know, if your team is not performing and it's not where you want it to be, it's a reflection of your ability to manage that team. Because you hired them, you trained them, you gave them the systems to actually work in, and you have the ability to remove them if they don't work. So your team is a reflection of you. Now, if you look in sport, again, if you use the football analogy, if a team is not performing, yeah, who gets fired?
Oh yeah, manager.
Manager.
Manager,
Okay.
yeah.
In your business, if the team doesn't perform, who gets fired?
The one who's not performing.
Yeah.
Who should get fired?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
So
go now.
where's my coat? So we've got to understand that it's our team, it's our business. You know, we have the responsibility, and if our team are not performing, it's down to us because we recruited them, we allowed them to get away with it, we train them. We've just got to be better. Yeah, and if we put all of that effort in and they're still not performing, then they have to leave. You know, no sports team will allow a weak individual to bring the whole performance of the whole team down. And we've got to start thinking of our teams in that way rather than in the traditional way that, yeah, it's your fault, you're not good enough, and therefore I'm going to get rid of you. Okay, there's a subtle difference that, yeah, have you done enough? Have you tried everything you can to build a great team? Yeah, stop blaming them, you know, blame yourself. And then do something about it. But blaming is not helpful in any shape or form. Okay, so you might have seen this little form, this sort of description before. My above and below, you know, the line. So the line of life is here. So if we want to live above the line, that we live in ownership, take accountability, responsibility. And for those people that live below, they're in blame, excuses, and denial. So above is all. So I'm paddling my own boat across the surface of the sea. And if I'm underneath, I sink to the seabed, yeah, in blame, excuse, and denial. So for ourselves, but also our team members, you know, in below the line is easy. Oh, you can't get good people. People are lazy. People don't follow systems. Okay, this is all about blaming other people as to why we can't achieve. Being above the line and taking ownership and saying, you know, my team's performance is 100% down to me, my ability to manage them. That's hard. Hard for people to accept that and take it on the chin. So this is where we need to be. So if we look at ourselves, but also our team members, if they are, you know, down here, then we need to do something to help them to get back up above the line. And that's really our job, you know, as business owners, business leaders, managers, directors, is to maintain our team's performance up here rather than falling down here. So this process of coming up here is basically just growing up. So we start down here as childlike behavior. Okay, so very young children, so under the age of 4, yeah, literally don't know how to blame and make excuses yet. They live in this world of, it's not really denial, it's blissfully unaware. And then they start to grow up and they start to learn how to make excuses and blame. Where do children mainly learn the art of making excuses and blaming other people?
learning from their siblings and
older people.
yeah.
Older people, specifically being
Our siblings, they're older ones.
Parents.
where did their siblings learn it from?
Oh well, parents.
Parents. Yeah, you've perfectly taught your children to blame other people and make excuses. So this is growing up. Okay, so we get into child behaviour, but ultimately this transition from below the line, taking no responsibility to taking responsibility is really what happens in our teenage years. So this transition from here to here is puberty. Okay, puberty is that rewiring of our brains to actually make us self-sufficient and to maintain the survival of the species. So is this sort of transition, I don't know, have you guys got teenage kids?
I have, yeah.
Old enough. Yeah. How old are yours?
My kid, well, actually, one's 20, one's 19. So
Okay.
I've got one above the line and one just hovering on that line. So
that transition, was that a nice, calm, simple, easygoing few years? No. Okay. This is a big jump in any adult growing from here to here. But
I still know adults below the line as well, to be fair.
Exactly. Yeah, we've still got all of these tendencies within us.
Mm.
So taking responsibility should have happened in our sort of early teenage years. Accountability. So when do we truly become? There's a difference between third-party accountability, so somebody else holds me to account, and personal accountability, where I hold myself to account. Any idea when that happens in a child's growing up?
Maybe when they get the first paycheck or first job.
First job, yeah. In what about in the sort of school, college, university world?
Yeah, I was going to think, what about when they start taking exams, perhaps?
Yeah. I mean, there's an element here of sort of O levels. You still have to sort of make your kids do O levels. When they get into A levels, and certainly when they go into university, the difference between school is if you don't turn up to school, somebody's going to be on your back. If you don't turn up to class at university, no one gives a monkeys. So that transition is one from it's the parent's job and the teacher's job to make you do your homework, do your exams, to a university or a job side, which is it's not my responsibility to make you turn up. You either do or you don't. There are consequences if you don't. And finally, when we take full ownership is when we've got full adult behavior, and that's really when we own something. So that's generally when we leave home, that we have full ownership. So now my whole life is now the responsibility of myself. So if we're growing up and we're taking more up here, the tendency is we fall back down to here, because this is generally childlike behavior and it's easy. Making excuses, blaming other people is far easier than taking responsibility and doing something about it. So down here, we've got ourselves or our team showing this level of behavior. This is hard work. Okay, so this is where we have to manage and direct people. We have to tell them what to do. This is micromanaging. If you've got a 2-year-old child, you have to micromanage that child. You can't leave it for more than 10 minutes without it getting into trouble. One would hope as you move up here, that you don't have to micromanage anymore. And at the top, all we can do is lead and delegate. So if you can imagine that perfect team, as you come in on a Monday, you tell them what you want them to do and what you want them to achieve, and then you leave them to it. Right, I'll see you next week. But we get stuck between we want to do this, but we end up doing this. We end up managing when we want to lead. Or we don't do enough managing, or we manage when we should be leading. So this transition period, this bit in the middle, is what I call coaching. So rather than thinking ourselves as managing a team, think of yourselves as coaching a team. How do I coach my team to be up here most of the time and achieve the results that I want them to achieve? The difficulty is coaching takes time and effort and skill. Managing takes a lot of time, but not a lot of skill. Leadership takes no time. You can only lead people that are constantly up here. You can't lead these people down here. So again, it's that change of belief to one of, I'm not a manager of people, I'm a coach of my team. Building a successful team of great people that are performing at the highest level possible. And if you go in with that belief, then I think you approach the whole management of people in a completely different way to the traditional way of trying to lead them when they should be managed and managing them when they should be led. So if we look at this into a bit more detail, and we look at the way the brain is developed, we have this sort of reptilian brain, which is our basic function of keeping us alive. We have that really controls our body. We have our limbic system, which is, we call the mammalian brain. So that's what we share with all other animals. And that is about our spirits, of our emotions. And then we have our neocortex, which is our thinking brain, and is all about the mind. Okay, so I think, therefore I am. That's our high level neocortex. So our neocortex has this ability to think forwards, and learn from the past. Our limbic system is all about our emotions and how I feel. My reptilian brain is basically my instinct. It's my fight or flight. So with these three parts of the brain, if I'm in firefighting, let's say your business is in complete chaos, customers are phoning up all the time, things are going wrong all the time, which part of the brain is working the hardest?
Reptilian
brain. So we're basically fighting for survival. So if somebody's running around, putting out fires, in pain, in effect, they're moving away from pain. How far forward do you think they're thinking? How strategically are they thinking?
They're not.
They're not.
No.
It's immediate. How do I get through today? Okay, so if I try and manage somebody like this, I've got to understand that this is kicking in and they're not going to be seeing the bigger picture. If I start taking them into big goals and leadership, it's not going to have any impact on them at all. So we've got to understand which part of the brain is engaged with people. Where do I want them to? I need them to be out of this, out of fight or flight, because that doesn't help me. I want to tap into a bit of this limbic system, this emotional brain of what is it you want, and I want this neocortex to be working as well. So if we put that into sort of an essence of life, you've heard the term mind, body, and spirit being in balance, in harmony. The same is true when we're motivating and we're looking to move our team forward. So for ourselves and for our team, if we're going to be motivated, we need all these three to be working together against each other, together in harmony. So the business context, our body is our performance. It's what we're doing. So our actions. Spirit is our relationships. So my relationship with the organization, how I feel. Do I feel loved? Do I feel accepted in the group, in the pack? Because don't forget, we're pack animals. We survive through a group of people. And our mind, our neocortex, is it actually learning and is it growing? So if we can do all three, then we've got a motivated team. Where we lose motivation is where one or more of these starts to dissipate and it disappears. So if you think about a time where you've perhaps been, a previous role, or a particular time in your current business, where would you say, can you sort of think about a time where you were demotivated and not feeling great about where you were?
Yeah, definitely can. Yeah.
Would you share that?
So
don't say it's now, please.
No. Thankfully, it wasn't with this company.
Good.
No, it was with a couple. I used to work for I was a production manager
Right.
for this company, and basically they manufactured desk office equipment, a lot of CNC machinery and so on like that. It had been going for about 30 years. It was huge, absolutely huge footprint, but they had about 300 staff working for them. So I moved into this. I was the first manager to be recruited in from the outside for about 15 years. So I was fresh, new blood, and instantly, as soon as I got there, I had a lot of pushback from everyone. Nobody wanted to play ball. When I had experiences of daily briefings and meetings, nobody would give feedback, and it was just a lot of friction right from the outset. And I felt like I was battling all the time, given a lot but getting nothing back, and that was a pretty low moment. Yeah.
So if you looked at that and said, right, on a scale of 1 to 10, how did you feel you were performing? So of your ability to perform and give your all and achieve, what would you say that score would have been?
Well, interestingly, when I first started, I thought that would have been quite high, about an 8 or a 9, because an 8, I reckon, because I still had to learn what I was doing there. But then it gradually got lower and lower as I sort of progressed.
Cool. So the performance has started to go down. Your relationship with the people around you, with your boss, with the organisation.
Again, out of 10. Initially, I was on cloud 9. Again, about an 8 or 9. But then it became quite toxic. It went down to about a 3, I reckon.
Cool. Yeah. And your ability to grow and learn new stuff and be better than you were when you started.
The fact that I wasn't getting properly trained and they would just throw me in at the deep end, that was very low. Right from the outset, I was, over. It was like a tsunami of information. I wasn't learning anything. So 2.
So if you looked at that, there's a 2 there, a 3 there, and a 3 there after 6 months. Yeah, there's no wonder why you didn't leave. So we've got to look at ourselves. Are we motivated in our business? But we've also got to be then good at looking at our team members and say, because in that respect, were you a good recruit for that business? Did you have the potential to perform at a really high level? You say, yeah, I did. But the organisation, the structure, the people managing me managed to get me from probably 6, 8, 9, and an 8 and 9, and they managed to squeeze me down to a 3. So we've got to understand that we have the potential to maintain people and improve them here, but we also have the potential to squeeze them down to lower figures. And if we start to see team members who are demotivated, and starting not to perform, we should always come back to this, and it will be one or more of these that is not working. It can only be one of these 3 because we've only got 3 parts to our brain. It's either reptilian brain is not performing, the emotional brain feels unloved and not working with the rest of the organization, or I'm actually not growing. And the beauty with this, if we work on all 3, is if I'm growing here, I should be performing at a higher level. If I'm performing at a higher level, people should be saying, well done. So these feed off each other. So unlike you, Lee, where each one knocked on and dragged you down, if you do it well, each one builds on the next one, builds you up.
Funny enough, like you mentioned there, it was at the 6-month point, I just cut and run. So, yeah.
Or, and a lot of people, because the organizations are not that well organized, they can't feel they can't leave because it's a well-paid job and they, for whatever reason, so they basically dumb themselves down to fit in. So they go back to, you know, the below the line slide, and they go back to being below the line, blame, excuse, and denial. Yeah, the reason I can't move is the company's fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's not me. So the organization creates below the line thinking, and you get too much of that in a business, and that business is not going to go anywhere. So in order to change this, we've got to start thinking about, right, how do we improve in each of these three areas? Well, performance requires clarity around goals, targets, key performance indicators, an element of competition, and an element of autonomy. I need to feel like I'm in control of my own destiny. If I do this, I get this. Okay. If I've got that feeling that I'm actually performing, I know my result, I'll carry on playing that game. Because that's why we play sport. That's why human beings love playing sport, because sport is simple in the fact that you get instantaneous feedback on what you're doing. So do you play any sports, Neil?
Yeah, squash.
Squash.
Mainly, yeah.
Okay, so if you play squash with somebody else, yeah.
Not compete against myself, really, on other things, but yeah, squash definitely.
Yeah, so you hit the ball. Yeah, and yeah, if it doesn't come back, you've won that point. If it comes back too quickly, yeah, or you can't get to the next point, you've lost that point. So that feedback you get, the KPIs, the score, that motivates you. So if you're winning, let's say you're 9-0 up, yeah, where's the motivation then for being 9-0 up?
Well, I suppose you're highly motivated because you've got a high chance probability you're going to win.
Yeah. Okay, I'm on a winning streak here, so I want to keep winning to close this game out. If you're 9-0 down, yeah, how are you motivated?
Well, you're going to be either motivated to sort of try and perform better, or you're going to be demotivated, aren't you? You might give up.
You might give up, but how many people give up after just being 9-0 down?
Well, unlikely. And I've been in that situation and come on and actually won. So
yeah. Now, if you go out and every time you play, you lose, 15-0, 15-0, 15-0, 15-0, 15-0, 15-0, yeah, then how are you going to feel?
Well, you might think, well, what's the point in actually keep going on? There's obviously something wrong, or you might need to do something to change it.
Yeah. Perhaps I'm playing, perhaps I need to be better.
Mm-hmm.
I need to actually go and actually learn how to play bloody squash, because I clearly can't if I'm losing 15-0. Or I'm playing at too high a level at the moment. I need to come down, play at a lower level, get my confidence back, and then work up. I've gone too quickly.
Yeah.
See, what people in business they don't keep enough scores because they think that showing a bad score is going to demotivate people. But in any walk of life, a bad score just shows you've got room for improvement, as long as you know that what you do can influence that score. Because if you knew that whatever you did on that squash court, you couldn't influence that 15-0 score, you just wouldn't play the game. What's the point? What's the point in getting better? Because I can't influence that score. So the KPIs have got to be in relationship with the activity that individual is doing. Otherwise, it will become a demotivator. But don't be worried about setting targets and goals that people can't achieve. They should be within just a little bit out of reach, because that then should drive their personal growth to achieve it. So we're all driven to some level around some form of competitiveness. And not all of us are highly competitive, Okay, we've got, as I said, this is harmony, not balance. This is not equal parts. But I'm very much performance driven. That's why I play competitive sport. I've always been. I like to go out and I like to win. I enjoy that. I enjoy the chase in that. Relationships for me. So this one here, fun, social. The relationships with other people isn't as high for me. I don't play team sports. I'm not great in team sports because the team thing just doesn't motivate me. And I could look back in my childhood at probably times on a football pitch or a rugby pitch where those seeds were sown, and I became very much a solo sports person. I play racket, individual racket sports and things like that. So if we want to motivate people around relationships, then we need to build in this fun, enjoyment, social activities. We need to make people understand that we care about them, that they're part of a team, they're part of a family. Tap into that limbic system that gives them a nice warm fuzzy feeling. And then the final one is our neocortex, where we have to learn. We get motivated by learning new skills, mastering things, getting better at something. And this is why I think computer games, if you think about computer games that have no real relationships, because you tend to play them on your own, but they can maintain your motivation because you get instant feedback on your performance. You're constantly learning and developing skills. Your relationship is actually, this is where it goes a little bit wrong, but your relationship is with the characters in the game. Because at subconscious level, your brain doesn't know the difference between a made-up fictional character and the real life. Your conscious brain does, your neocortex does, not your limbic emotional brain. That's why when you go and watch Disney films, you fall in love with Bambi. It's a drawing, there's no emotion. It's not a real life thing, but your subconscious limbic system still thinks he's a cute little deer. So we've got to look at this and say, if we want to motivate ourselves, if we want to motivate our team, we've got to look at these three areas.
So Kevin, when you look at this with work, and you mentioned with sport and so on, when you include all of these three, is that what you could term or define as the sort of addiction? That person gets addicted to it then?
If you get to a level where they're all firing, then yes.
Yeah.
And so if I took, for me, I've become a little bit addicted to golf because I know I'm improving my performance, I'm growing, I'm learning new stuff. I mean, I'll sit and watch bloody YouTube videos on golf technique until the cows come home. I also get the relationships as I get to play with my mates. If I only ever played golf on my own, eventually it would get quite tedious. I'm quite happy to go out on my own and play, but if that all it ever was, then it would become tedious and you'd fall out of love with it. And certainly where growth and performance start to stop, you need this one to keep it going. Because eventually, if it's just growth, performance, growth, performance, growth, performance, growth, it just becomes a bit tiring after a while. Okay. Any other questions around that? So in order to improve this with our team, okay, in order to actually move these things forwards, we should be looking at bringing in, awards, competition, league tables, bonuses, things that are going to stimulate that performance part of our brain. In a way, every team member should have a metric. It should have an idea of its level of performance. So we're going to play a little game. So Lee, you can play this game with me. So do you know how to play 10-pin bowling?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. So this is you. Yeah. And you're going to play 10-pin bowling, and these are the skittles down here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I am your line manager. Okay. So this is a business context. So we're playing a business game of skittles. So these are the KPIs. These are the figures. So a normal business, so this could be profit and loss, sales, profit, whatever it is we're playing the game of in our business. So normally what happens is these are quite private, so I put this blanket sheet up in front of the skittles, and you bowl the ball. And it's going to go along, it's going to go underneath or through the blanket, and it's going to knock some skittles down. I'm manager, so I'm looking at the skittles, because that's my job. I'm not going to tell you how many skittles you got down. How long are you going to play this game for?
Crikey. How long am I going to play it for? Interesting. Well, if I didn't know whether or not I'm hitting my KPIs or my targets, and I wasn't getting any feedback, I imagine I would get quite bored quickly and then start thinking about other things and moving on to other areas that I'm better at. I don't know. Probably quite early.
So if we keep it as a game of skittles, how many balls would you bowl before you got bored with bowling balls?
Oh, right. Okay. I don't know, 4 or 5.
There'll be a very few number before you get bored with it.
Yeah.
If I carried on paying you £30,000 a year, would you keep bowling balls?
I suppose if the situation meant that I got a guaranteed wage and it was suited me, yeah, certainly.
Yeah. If I paid you just to bowl balls, you'd carry on bowling balls. You wouldn't enjoy it.
No.
Yeah, you'd be sort of questioning why the fuck I'm bowling balls in the first place. But he keeps paying me to bowl balls, so I'll keep bowling balls. And as long as I bowl enough balls for him not to shout at me, so they bowl more balls, I'll find that balance, which will be probably around about 50% of the performance I could do. I'll carry on doing it.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't rock the boat. I'd be whinging to my mates about it, but that's about it.
Yeah. And that's where I reckon over 50% of the working population are. Now, we're better than that because we're good managers. So we are going to tell you, as you bowl the ball now, how many skittles you get down. So if you bowl the ball, so the first bowl comes through, and I tell you, Lee, you got 4 skittles down. Well done, Lee. Good job.
Okay.
How many bowls do you think you'll bowl more or less than 4 or 5 bowls before you get fed up with this game?
More, because it would become competitive to me. Yeah.
So I'm bowling, but you're bowling balls, and I'm telling you the score. So it's a bit of a team game here, isn't it? You bowl, I tell you. Bowl, I tell you. How easy is it for you now to adapt your game with me having to tell you what the score is?
Sorry, say that bit again.
How easy is it for me to tell you, how easy is it for you to adapt your game to get better, to in effect, so you know what the score is. So we're doing this one. I'm showing you what the score is. But how easy is it for you to do this one, grow, by bowling through a sheet and me telling you how many you got knocked down?
It's easy in the fact that I could probably just change my angles slightly, but I'm not doing it for a reason. I'm just changing the angle. I haven't got any training or experience behind it. Hit and miss.
It's a bit hit and miss. You might ask me, well, which ones did I get down? And I'll say, look, you've got to bend it in from the right paw. Twist it round there. Do this. How hard am I working as a manager to get your performance up from 50% to 75%?
You are micromanaging, so a lot of time and effort.
I'm using a lot of time and effort. And I'm a good manager because I'm giving you that feedback and I'm coaching you and I'm helping you. So what should I do as a manager?
Remove the blanket, remove what's in my way.
Move this, let you see the skittles, and then come over here, stand with you,
And coach.
say, what do you need? You can see the skittles, you're bowling the ball. What do you think's working? What's not working?
So
How much easier is that than doing that? How much more motivated is this person going to be? Now, I should be able to get them to 100% motivation if I do that. See, we've got to take this blanket away, allow people to see how they're performing. Now, I appreciate that in a lot of parts of of work, it's not as always simple. Sales and marketing, it's generally quite simple. Production, how many units have you produced? It's quite simple. A lot of businesses, different roles, it's more difficult, but it doesn't mean that this does still not apply. This is where we just need to be more creative as managers so that we actually give that visibility to our team. So I'm working with a lot of clients at the moment, and the key phrase is visibility. How do we make it visible of how well we're performing as individuals, as teams? How do we get this blanket out of the way so our team can actually see what they're actually achieving? Okay, and we just, in businesses, ones that I've run over the years, we did this quite well at a management level, but we were rubbish at actually going down to the shop floor, as it were, and giving people ownership of their own numbers. Okay, if you recruit good people and you give them the chance to be better, they will want to be better. They stop trying to be better when they actually can't see the connection between what they're doing, between them bowling balls and the number of skittles they're getting down. You just lose, you'll get out of them is 50% of their potential. So the relationship side is, just enjoying it, a bit of fun, days out, cakes, celebrations, spontaneous things. But the problem with spontaneity is if you're busy and you're running around doing stuff, you never really feel that spontaneous. So you've got to have, in a way, planned spontaneity. I know it's a bit of an oxymoron, but you've got to plan it in and say, right, today, this week, I need to do something special for somebody. And certainly where we're becoming more remote now, these things are in a way sometimes more difficult, because they're not in the office where I can just buy bacon baps and buy some ice creams in the summer and, we can go down the pub afterwards. We've got remote people, but it doesn't mean that just because they're remote that this part of the brain suddenly, disappears. In effect, it needs more relationships because it's not getting it at work. A lot of people come to work because it motivates this. They don't get this at home, or it's a different type of relationship. It can be more stressful at home. Then the growth is obviously training, giving people promotions, showing how they can grow in your organization. So if I'm down here, at level 1, how do I get over the next 5 years here? Is there a here in your organization? Because if there's no here, you expect me to stay at this level for the rest of my life, where's my motivation on that? People need to see that if you want to better yourself, then you need to be more, if you want more pay, you need to show more value. In order to show more value, I need you at a high level skill. So if the connection between this and where I want you to go isn't there, you've got problems. I'll deal with that a little bit more later on. So motivation, in life is a really complex thing. This is my take on it. I just think that these three parts of the brain are so key. And if you can do a balance of these, then you're going to have far more success than if you do nothing. And this, say, the first person you need to think about is yourself. Score yourself out of 10 for each of these. Yeah. So how well am I performing? 5. Okay. So what's one thing I could do in the next month that would get that to a 6? Yeah. How well am I growing? What do I do with that? It's an 8. How do I get that to a 9? Relationships, 7. How do I get that to an 8? These will never be 10. Because that's a bit like playing squash and winning 15-0 every time. If you're winning 15-0 every time, you need to go and find a better person to play against. Okay, so how do we now build this winning team then? What is it that we need to do? So that was more about the mindset. What do we need to do to build a team? Well, the first thing is we need to be a strong leader. Okay, now when I say a strong leader, I mean a strong leader, a strong manager, and a strong coach. Okay, it's understanding the differentials of that. Sometimes you have to manage people. You have to be strict. You have to micromanage. Yeah. Sometimes you need to coach them. Sometimes you need to lead them. But you've got to work out where you are and continually work on your skills to do that. So leaders have a clear vision of the future. Yeah. They understand their core values and they understand there's a purpose for the organization. So your vision is what I call the big, hairy, audacious goal. Where do you want to be in 5-10 years' time? In a business, it's generally a finance figure. It's a turnover figure, a number of staff figure, but it doesn't have to be. It could be more aspirational than that. Sort of a market leader in our sector. Values are your core beliefs. So these are the fundamentals that are the glue that holds the business together. Okay, and generally a business has, within here. So this is the BHAG, hairy, audacious goal. The values are things like generally a word that describes something that's really important to you. Yeah. So for me, one of my values is work hard. I can't believe it's working. So that doesn't even look like work hard, does it? So my pens, work hard. Okay, because it's a value because when people don't do it, it annoys you. So when I see people that don't work hard and don't put effort in, it really gets my goat. Because my parents worked hard. I've always worked hard. Now it's not always a good thing. Sometimes, sometimes I work hard rather than work smart. But I always find that people that don't work hard don't really fit with my values. So what are those core beliefs that you have that when people don't live by them, they start to annoy you? Our purpose is why are we here? So this is the why does the company exist? Okay, so this is sort of internal. So this is generally a goal to achieve, a financial goal. Yeah, these are our core beliefs. Yeah, and this is why are we here? So this is an external. So business purpose is to make people happy. So would you want to go and work for an organization that was its purpose was purely to make people happy? Yes, you would. Yeah. One that is then growing, and achieving a certain turnover level, and is going to be twice the size it is in 12 months' time. I want to work for that. I don't wants to go and work for a company that is going to be half the size, it is currently. or one that's going to be, well, we're going to be exactly the same we are in 3 years' time? Or the worst one is, well, we're going to grow by 2 or 3%. Where's the motivation at? Why would I want to go and be led by somebody who's only leading their business forward by 2%? The reason that companies like Tesla, Google, have people queuing up to work for them is because they're going places. If you want the best of the best of the best, you need to be going somewhere equally as exciting. So once we know where we're going, then the great leaders have this ability to delegate. They're quite happy to let other people take the glory. The ego disappears. I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for them. So I'm quite happy to hand this over. You get the sale, you win. I've done my winning. If leaders always want to be the winner, then they're not going to lead their team in a particularly great place. Okay, we've got to be looking to pass the responsibility on to other people. There's got to be an alignment of goals. I'll come back to that in our next one. And great leaders are self-aware. They have, and there's a lot of about it, they have not only, there's an element of IQ, intellect, but the more important one is EQ, emotional intelligence. My ability to understand other people's emotions, so other people's limbic system, and what's going on inside their head, so I can get the best out of them. And it's a simpler version of emotional intelligence. One of the key things we use a lot is profiling, behavioral profiling. So if you can understand other people's behavior, then it really helps you to understand how they tick. So a way we can look at this is our DISC profiling says that there's outgoing people, reserved people, and task-focused people. So our outgoing task-focused people are our Ds, our dominant drivers. Outgoing people are our influencers, so our high Is. S's are our supporters, so introverted people, and C's are our cautious, calculating people, task-focused, reserved people. And another way to look at it is, these are the powerful people, popular, peaceful, and perfect type people. Okay, so it's just different ways to think about it. So when we're building a team, we want to be understanding what sort of team are we building. Do we want Ds in the team? Do we want Is? Do we want S's? Do we want C's? Imagine an organization that was full of C's. So let me just switch to the next slide. You can see. So Ds, so there's some words that show each of these. So imagine I've got an organization full of C's. Okay. What sort of organization have I got, Neil?
Not one that's really going to. Sorry, C's.
C's, yeah.
Yeah, not one that's really going to want to take sort of risks. That maybe like behind the always lagging where the competitors maybe might be following and might be leading.
Yep.
Was losing out an opportunity because they're procrastinated too much, maybe.
Yep. Everything's going to be perfect. Yeah, it's all going to be, all the I's are dotted, all the T's crossed, but this business isn't going to be going anywhere. It's going to be stuck in the past, doing the way we've always done it. Yeah. You can see a C organization because when you go into it, everyone's got their own room. They don't talk to each other. It's like lots of little silos working individually, sometimes towards a bigger goal, but often to their own devices. So give me an example of a high C type profession. So who would generally have employed in their organization a lot of these types of people?
Surgeons.
Sorry?
Just trying to think. Oh dear. Well, obviously that's not a business, is it? I suppose. But
Cautious, calculating, compliant, competent people.
So
engineers maybe.
engineers, architects.
Engineers, architects, yeah, accountants, solicitors. Yeah, now visualize a typical office full of those people. Yeah, all working in their own little worlds, in their own little bubbles, doing their own little thing, their own way.
Mm.
How much collaboration, how much teamwork is going on? Not a lot. Okay, so it's got strength in the fact that it's very detailed and analytically correct, but its weakness is going to be the fact that no one's driving it. Everyone, they're not working together. They're not really a team. It's just a group of individuals. So what about an organization full of Ds? So highly driven, determined, dynamic, decisive, demanding people. What's that organization going to look like?
Probably not getting a great deal done. You know, there's lots of people with good ideas, but they're not actually putting it to action. Maybe
someone like Facebook, perhaps. Google.
I mean, the reality is these businesses don't exist. Because let's say both you and I, Lee, were high D people. I mean, the high D is the alpha male. You know, very strong, opinionated. I'm right, everyone else is wrong.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so imagine that we work together and we're both like that.
Mm.
How long are we going to last?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd favour myself against you, though, mate.
So would I.
No, it wouldn't last long. It wouldn't last long, would it?
Because one of us, would have to become subservient. So one of us would have to come out of this box, and go down here into becoming a supportive, submissive. Because you can't have two alpha males in a pack. It's just, unless you want bloodshed. So these businesses, they're good for startups, but they burn out really quickly. What about organization with eyes, full of eyes? So they're very outgoing. They love the big picture side of things. They love talking about it.
Call centers.
Call centers, yeah. That's good call. A lot of eyes there, outgoing, chatty people.
Teachers, people coaching, trainers, maybe.
Yeah, they tend to be a bit more S, to be honest, because they're supporting others. Eyes still need to be leading. They still need to be, they don't like doing the work necessarily. Like to paint the picture, right, this is where we're going to go, this is what we're going to do, right, I'll leave you to it. So a group of eyes will be great at the inspiration. They'll all be going, yeah, come on, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, going to do this. Right, come on, let's all go down the pub.
Brokers then, Neil. Yeah.
So they talk the talk, but there's no one doing the work.
Yeah.
So these businesses go out of business quite quickly because no one's actually looking at the detail. No one's actually done a cash flow or a budget. No one's tracking the numbers. It's all on gut feel. And the S is sort of somewhere in the middle. It's nice. It's a little bit more pleasant. This is more open plan office, more chatty, supporting. Somebody brings in cakes and makes everyone feel good. And but again, it lacks that dynamicness, drive to go somewhere. So this would be sort of healthcare, sort of coaching, training organisations, where they're there to support other people. So you can see that an organisation with just one type just doesn't work. So we need a balance in our business of all of these profiles. Okay, so as we're building a team, as a great leader, we've got to understand this We've got to know that we perhaps need a little bit of D. Now, if we don't have that in the organization, maybe we need to build that up. We need to be the D. Yeah. Need a bit of I in there, a bit of inspiration, a bit of, you know, picture thinking. We need the supporting and we need that attention to detail. So we have a system called DISC profiling. You know, it's an online, some of you will have done this, where we can test individuals and see what their profiles are. And I do more of this in the self-mastery workshop, the time management one. And beautifully, we can plot the whole organization. So we can look at the whole organization, see where they fit. We can see where the gap is. So you can see here, you know, the gap for this organization really is in this bit here. Now that might be okay because we might have people here that can move into this, because these people over here, they're not going to move into it. It's too far for them to move into. These people might cover this gap. Imagine if the whole organization was over here and there's nothing over here. We'd have some big problems then. So a lot of the work that I do coaching business owners is to actually help them, if they are over here, to step up and change and be more adaptive in their profile, to actually be a little bit more assertive or a bit more analytical or a bit more outgoing and inspirational. So the first thing we've got to do is understand ourselves. Second is then understand our team. And then the third is actually then build a team that has the right dynamic, right balance in order to be a high performing team. So that was strong leadership. The next one is the common goal, that we need to have clarity around the goal for our company, but also for the individual. So for ourselves, we need budgets and targets. I mean, again, I've said that before with the motivation that we need to understand what success looks like. What does a good score look like? Just because I have a bad score doesn't demotivate me as long as I feel empowered and I have the ability to change my performance. I can lose 15-0 all day long as long as I don't lose 15-0 all day long and don't have the ability to improve. Yeah, I played squash I hadn't played squash for 24 years. And a couple of years ago, a client said, come on, let's go and play squash. I've got into it. I'm really enjoying it. So I spent 10 minutes warming up, unable to hit a ball because the ball was going too bloody fast. And then managed to get my eye in and actually back into playing. And I used to play as a kid. So I do enjoy it, but I hadn't played. And then I played him. In the first game, I beat him 15-4. Second game, I beat him 15-3 and then 15-2. At the end of that, he was so keen to play again because he wanted to beat me. So his motivation was there because he knew he should be able to beat me because he was, a lot younger than I was, and he'd been playing far more than I was. I was enjoying the fact that I could still actually play, and somehow my muscle memory was still there. But that motivation for him, because he knew what his goal was what was driving him forwards. So as a company, so this is at a company level, we need to know what this is, what the sales are, because at the end of the day, the goal of the business is to make profit. So we need to know what this is, but also, well, what's the individual's personal goal? What do they want to be in 5 years? How much do they want to earn? What is their career path? What responsibility they have? What position in society do they want? When do they want to retire? How are they going to get to financial independence? See, if we can help every one of our team achieve their own personal goals working with us, why would they leave us? Most people leave an organization, not because it's not because of pay, It's more because they can't see how they can achieve their goals staying at that organization. If I'm continuing to grow, if I'm continuing to perform, and I continue to have a relationship, I will stay with that organization forever. Long gone are the days where you could just pay somebody, you know, £30,000 just to bowl balls through a blanket. People want that fulfillment, you know, because we get it in other areas of our life. Therefore, why shouldn't I have it at work? So we need to have this team alignment. It's alignment through, you know, individuals and the whole company in order to understand what is that they want, how they can help us achieve our goals, and how we help them to achieve their goals. And then we build that down into appraisals, which in my mind need to be quarterly and aligned with our 90-day plans. Okay, so as you know, if you work with me, that we always work in 90-day plans. Their appraisals and their personal goals, yeah, need to align with that. Because at that review, their performance should be reviewed on a day-to-day, week basis, but we can review their performance. We're also checking in with their relationship and their personal growth. Yeah, so how do you feel about the company on a scale of 1 to 10? How do you feel about the company right now? Do you feel loved? Do you feel appreciated? Do you feel looked after? Do you feel safe? Do you feel secure? Yeah. Are you growing as an individual? Are we helping you achieve your personal goals? And then, right, okay, we're not perfect yet. So what's one thing we could do this quarter to help improve that situation? So appraisals become far more dynamic, yeah, and intrinsic to success than at the moment people do appraisals once a year, and they're a complete waste of time. So just fill in a box, you know, because we've been told by HR that we've got to do an appraisal. The other thing appraisals aren't performance management. Performance management has to be done in the now. If somebody does something wrong performance-wise, it needs to be picked up the moment they do it. Yeah. Was that a dog I saw jump up on you, Lee?
Yeah.
So if your dog pooed on the carpet, yeah, and you hit it or told it off 3 months after it pooed on the carpet, is that going to work as dog training?
No, absolutely not.
No, it poos on the carpet. It needs to understand what it's done. That moment is wrong. Now, I don't think you rub their noses in it these days, do you? I don't think that's dog training. But yeah, there's something. You know, there is something you've got to do pretty soon to retrain it not to do it. So we can't wait until the appraisal to give performance feedback. Yeah, performance feedback needs to be done at the time, both good and bad. You've done good performance, great, give you feedback. Done bad performance, great. I need to show you why it was bad and how we're going to improve it. So we've got to have this common goal of where the company's going, where you're going, and this alignment, and then constant feedback through our appraisal system. And as we said before, you know, if you're setting goals, you've got to have a reporting mechanism. You've got to have leading KPIs. So leading KPIs are activity. So if I had a leading KPI in 10-pin bowling, what would the activity that I'd be recording be, Lee?
How many pins you've knocked down?
That would be a lagging, because the pins being knocked down are the result of an action. What is the action I'm recording before the pins go down?
How many pins are up?
How they're bowling it, how they're crikey. Their method of throwing the ball, perhaps.
Yeah, it's not really measure. I'd say it's important. It's not the measure, is it? So if we said the simplest one is number of bowls bowled. I can control the number of bowls I bowl, can't I?
Mm-hmm.
So that's an activity, that's an action that I can measure. Now, if I wanted to go into more detail on that, would I then be thinking it's not just the number of bowls bowled? It would be what if I was really going analytical with this?
The size of them, the weight of them.
Yeah, okay. If I was trying different balls, I could look at the weights. But I was thinking more of, again, think about actions, activity.
Speed of it.
Speed.
Oh,
It would be the speed. It would be the angle of attack.
I see. Yeah.
It would be the angle. Yeah, there'll be some KPIs at the front end that are all. I can actually influence these. Yeah, so therefore they're a leading KPI. So if I bowl a ball at this speed at this angle, which I can control, what's the result I get, which is the lagging is the number of skittles I knock down. So if you look now in the sporting world and they talk about marginal gains, this is purely this concept. The leading KPI is what can I actually influence directly. The lagging is my performance on the track. If I put Vaseline on the spokes of my bike, yeah, I can measure that. What's the result I get? What's the win coefficient? And then we want to break this down into, company, departmental, individual KPIs. So as an individual, I need to know what my metric, how that influences my department, my team, how that influences the company. It's got to be this connection between the three, because people do it for themselves or their team. The company's the last thing they do it for. A bit like, if you go back into the army, when they say, the people in the army fight for their country. They don't fight for their country, do they? Who do they fight for?
You and your mates.
Your mates. So the whole army is built around building those relationships. Go back to what motivates them. Yeah, motivated by relationship. A lot of people that join the army come from places where their relationships with the people around them weren't that great. So the army's a substitute for that relationship. So they work on that until you go to battle, not for your country, but for your mates. Because they understand that it's the psychological side that keeps them going. So if we've set the goals, we need the key performance indicators in place as well. And once we've got a goal and the measurement, how we're going to record that, then we need an action plan. Okay, so we need to understand who does what by when, 90-day plans. This is the 90-day plan format that we tend to use. 7-day targets, daily reviews. And the old adage goes, if you can't plan a day, you'll never plan a week. If you can't plan a week, you'll never plan a month. If you can't plan a month, you'll never plan a year. So getting ourselves to actually manage our time, plan it out every day. What have I got to achieve today? Every week, what have I got to achieve this week? Every month, what have I got to achieve this month? I do a lot of this on time management because it is such an important part of time management, is the ability to set goals and have a plan and a structure to work towards that. So we need it as an organization, and then we need to scale that down through the business. So our previous book of the month, we had Measure What Matters. It was all about OKRs, objectives and key results. It's the same concept of this. Here's my objective, my number one goal. Here's the key results. This is what I must achieve. this is when's it going to get done by, and this is who's going to do it. And then we can have check-ins for that on a regular basis. If it's written down, I can provide the accountability. If it's written down, I can hand it over to somebody to take responsibility and ownership of it. If I don't write it down, in 3 months' time, in a day's time, will I remember it? Okay, the more visibility your plans are to your team, the easier it is for them to understand, to argue it, to actually say, I don't agree with this. Yeah. Or ideally, you want them to actually write their own plan. So here's the objective. Now you go and write a plan of how you want to achieve this. So there's top-down planning. So this is, I've got a goal and here's your plan. And there's bottom-up, which is, right, this is the goal I want to achieve. Now, what are you going to do? So that the individual owns their own plan. Because we all want that autonomy to do what we want to do when we want to do it. We've got to be brought into that goal first. So once we've got our plan, then we need to set out the rules of the game. Okay? And there's 4 key things to my mind that help us achieve the rules of the game. The first one is the culture statement. Now, if you remember back at the start when I said about leadership was about vision, values, and purpose, the culture of the business is the culture of a business is driven by the values. Okay, so if I said, one of my values was hard work. Okay, so put the effort in. If that was one of my values, and I said around culture, what would be some actions that would come out of that value in a team situation? So how would I live hard work in a team?
Well, leading by example. Does that count as it?
Yeah. Let's put it into a context. So let's say we're training a football team. A young bunch of young kids, playing football. And I've said to them, right, the values of this squad is going to be hard work. I said, right, around training, so training is now the context. Yeah. How do we live hard work? The value of hard work in our culture around training. What's that going to mean?
Commitment to the training.
Yeah. So it says, but what does that mean I need to do? So we're talking about here the rules of the game here.
It's basically, be there for the whole duration of that training.
Mm-hmm.
So be there for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Turn up on time.
Turn up on time.
Be there. Yeah. Be there early. Set up the equipment ready. It's there for them. Yeah.
Be ready. Okay. So what comes out of this value comes these rules of the game of how we're going to play this game. But my job can be to set the value. The team's job, though, if I said, right, if I laid all these rules out, people don't like abiding by rules, do they? If I said, right, we're going to turn up on, you've got to turn up on time, you've got to, stay there to the end. People are going to go, oh, really? This sounds a bit oppressive. But if I sat down with a team and said, look, the value that I believe in and I want us all to believe in is hard work. And if you're on this team, you've already agreed to be part of those values. And I said to the team, how are we going to show hard work in our training? They will come up with all those ideas. Yeah. Then they're their ideas, they're their rules, and therefore they will abide by them. And if they've all written the rule book themselves and a new person comes in, who enforces the rules?
The team.
The team does.
Yeah.
If you turn up here and you don't do what we've agreed, you're out. See, I shouldn't need to manage the team to the values. The values do the management themselves. And if I catch somebody that's not living to the value of hard work, I can just say, Lee, that behavior you showed yesterday, I'm a little bit lost because I don't see how that lived to the value of hard work. Can you explain that to me, please? And they'll come up with some excuse, or they'll say, actually, I appreciate that. I put my hand up. It wasn't. I was being a bit lazy. It won't happen again. If they keep doing it, you just say, look, Lee, I don't think you understand the importance of hard work in our culture, in our team. So do you want to go somewhere where it's a bit easier? Because that's fine. If you don't want to stay and play by our rules, then please go, because I don't need you here. And you clearly don't want to be here because you're not really playing the game as we said. Yeah, it's a bit like, if we're playing squash, Neil, and I continually hit you on the back with the squash racket to get the ball, you'd have to call me on my cheating, Okay? It's not really the way we play squash. That's not in the rules of squash. If you want to play that, I suggest you go and do some contact sport somewhere else, because you shouldn't be on a squash court. So managing people, to the rules should actually be relatively easy if we're managing from values and culture. The next one is the organisation chart and where we sit in the organisation chart, and it really comes to roles, responsibilities that have come from that. So if we look at a typical organisation chart, we're looking at here, let me just look at it slightly different. So if we look at an organisation chart, who sits at the top of an organisation chart? Shareholders, yeah. And they employ the
managing director,
MD, yeah. And then our team of managing directors, our team of directors are the 5 roles here.
marketing,
sales,
operations,
yeah,
finance, and people.
And HR. Okay. So each one, it's really good when I teach people the same thing twice. They remember it. So each of these, so in marketing, we might have our different forms of marketing. So we might have social media, we might have networking, we might have direct, and then social media would be Facebook, Instagram, down here. So we start building all of these roles and responsibilities, and then we say to somebody who's coming to the organization here, says, right, you own this one, this one, and this one, and these are your KPIs, and you're also going to do a bit of that, and there's your KPIs. You're going to be doing that, there's your KPIs. Okay, do you want the job? So having real clarity around our organization structure and how our business works, and the roles within that, and the responsibilities within that, and the key performance indicators as a result of that, gives real clarity. So we know this person is performing and they're hitting their numbers, and they know they're performing and they hit their numbers. What we've got to do is make sure that they've got the time, to do all of those different roles. Because if we set them up to achieve these targets that are unattainable in the amount of time we've given them, then we've set them up to fail. Okay, so having this organization structure is really key. We've got to have this to the point where they know what is expected of them and we know what's expected of them, so that we know when they're doing well and when they're failing. And then another part of the rules again is then the systems and processes. So these are really your SOPs. Okay, so these are your SOPs, standing operating procedures. Are written down that says the way we do things around here are like this. Because if you don't have systems, then don't expect them to follow them. They'll do it their way. They'll make it up the best they can. So that's what I would call the McDonaldization of a business. You know, make it very, very clear what they've got to do, how they do it, and then train them to actually achieve that. Once we've got the rules and the plan and the goal, and we're showing strong leadership, then you should just get out of their way. Okay, allow them to take risks. So delegate to them. You know, give them the training they need. Make sure there's communication. You know, motivate them. Do what it takes to get them to actually then perform and take ownership of their own performance. Okay, that's the point, I think, on the bowling analogies, where you take away the sheet and you go up the other end and say, right, give it a go. Trust in yourself. Fail forwards. If you're going to make a mistake, yeah, learn from the mistake and don't make it again. Stop trying to stop your team making mistakes. Allow them to make the mistake, learn from it, and then do something about it. Okay, and this is really where you really do start coaching them rather than managing them. You know, it's like your kid with the bicycle. You know, at some point you've got to take the training wheels off, and you've got to be prepared for them to fall over. Because if you keep holding on to them, if you keep the training wheels on, they'll never really get the confidence to actually do it for themselves. So you support risk taking, and then you've got to make sure we have this 100% involvement and inclusion, which for me is really about communication. This is that relationship side of things. Okay, it's making sure we communicate, that there's newsletters, they understand what's happening in the business as a whole, not just their little part of it. It's our team meetings, the structure of those. Team meetings are like the heartbeat of the business. You know, if your heartbeat is like this, erratic, irregular, then you're going to die. If your heartbeat is like this, too many meetings, you know, you're probably overdoing it. Having that regular meetings with the right people and doing the right things at the right time, then that is key. So understanding how to hold meetings, you know, how do you hold a successful meeting? What should be in that meeting? Having a clear agenda, time frame, who's going to be there. These are all key things to making this work. Social events, we talked about the fun, the reward systems, and a little technique that we often use is called a WIFLE. So WIFLE stands for what I feel like expressing. So before you start a meeting, make sure everyone has their input as to where they are in their own headspace. What I feel like expressing is, I've had a shit week, my head's not in this, I'd rather not be here. Thank you for explaining that. Would you like us to delay this meeting, or is it okay if we carry on and just get through it as quickly as possible? Okay, because a lot of people come to meetings with hidden agendas, and this gives you the chance to get those agendas out on the table and then deal with them. So those are really the 6 keys to building a team. Okay, you get those. So if a team is not working, if you look at a team and it's not performing, I guarantee it'll be one of those 6 areas that you need to improve. Okay, but another way to look at this is from a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by a guy called Patrick Lencioni. So he looked at it and said, look, if you're not getting results in your business, okay, because that's what we see at the end of the day. Like, I'm not getting the results. So let's look at it in a sales situation. My sales team are not performing. I'm not getting the results that I want. There's a focus on the results. Look at accountability. So are you managing to hold your team to account? or are you letting people get away with things? Yeah, and accountability, to get accountability, you have to have meetings. If your sales team are not meeting on a daily, weekly, at least monthly basis, you are not putting accountability into your organization. It's like letting your football team go off and play, you know, for 3 months without checking in on them and seeing how well they're doing. But he said, if you're not in accountability, then it's probably because there's a lack of commitment. People have set goals that they're not committed to achieve. It's the nodding dog syndrome. You know, have you seen this when you're in a meeting and you say, right, do you understand that? And they go, yeah. And they say, do you really understand it? Well, I don't really understand it, no. So they say they're going to do it, but there's no commitment to do it. They've already put in their mind a blame, excuse, or denial factor into this.
I'm worried about nodding my head at the moment.
So if we get a lack of commitment, it's not because of that. It's actually because there's a fear of conflict. People don't commit to things because they're afraid of turning around to you and saying, actually, I disagree with that. That's a stupid target. I don't have enough time to do it. I don't understand what you're talking about. You're a complete idiot. So in our meetings, there's this fear of conflict, of fear of actually telling it as it is. Sometimes it's from the leader to the team, you know, or, you know, I won't challenge you and pretend, you know, that you don't, you know, I've asked you, do you understand? I don't think you understand, but you said yes, so I'll let you get away with it. Yeah. Or it's the other way around. Oh, I don't want to say that I can't do this because he'll get upset. He's a busy man, busy woman. Yeah. And therefore I'll just let it lie. And the reason there's a fear of conflict, he said, is because there's no trust. So the number one reason why teams don't work is because there is an inherent lack of trust amongst the team players. So go back to the 6 keys of a winning team. If that whole team is not built on a fundamental trust through the team, none of it's going to work. No matter what you put in, you can have the best systems, the best goals, the best measuring system. If you don't have trust in your organization, yeah, from you to them, from them to you, and from them amongst each other, you're screwed. So the first thing you've got to ensure that you build from day one is an element of trust through your organization. And to me, a lot of that is if you have the framework, you use the 6 keys framework, yeah, and you do that consistently and religiously, then that in itself will build trust. If you don't have that, then your trust levels are going to trip up at some stage. Okay, so it's a really good, it's a simple little book. It's not big. It's a nice little sort of story behind it, and all of Patrick's books are a really good read. So definitely ones to get.
Sorry, what was that book called again, Gavin?
It's called 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Patrick Lencioni, Lencioni.
Thanks.
Good. So I think we've got actually finished in time. So nice. So any questions on what we've covered today?
No, it was interesting actually because I mean I was in the military, same as Neil,
Yep.
and all those things that you were saying, it rings true. And I just kept thinking to myself, I wished when I was in training, or wished when I was training recruits, that the army spent more time delving into this information as opposed to just shouting and bawling at people.
Yeah.
You know, clearly it's an autocratic sort of environment, but you know, it would help and benefit so much more. But yeah, brilliant.
It's difficult because if you look where armies come from, you know, and the essence of warfare, you know, in the early days, warfare was, look, you're going to go out and 90% of you are going to die. Okay, so we don't want you to think. Yeah, and therefore the way that we train you is to actually beat out the neocortex side We don't want you to think, we just want you to react. Yeah. Modern warfare, and if you go into, you know, where the elite army side go, you know, the SAS, the paras, you know, they're much more around the bringing back the cognitive thinking again. So they beat it out of you, and then they have to reinstall it. And sometimes I think the two don't go well together, you know, and why they get themselves into problems. You know, because if you have a really thinking, rational army, and they all go up, and 90% of you are going to die, no one's going to go to war. No matter how much you love your mates and things like that, you're not going to do it. So there are issues there, you know, but you know, armies have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and so they've sort of found a way that works. It's not perfect, but yeah, it's probably the best they're going to come up with. Which is why they need more drones now, and you know, don't have to worry about it then.
There's more accountability, isn't there? That's the thing.
Yeah. Cool. Anything, Neil? Anything there that stood out, or
yeah? I mean, certainly it obviously does conjure back what we've discussed previously about the big plan, you know, and those key stages that they all interlink with, you know, the team mastery side of things. Clearly, obviously, which is obviously all about, but you know, they all link back to. I mean, we're going through a recruitment process at the moment, and you know, we're very keen on this DISC profiling. You know, we're very keen. We're in a stage where we're sort of we're speculating, you know, to accumulate. We're getting, you know, that old word. We're you know, looking at opportunities where we can grow. You know, so therefore we have to grow the team. You know, and but with the team and giving the team KPIs, it's very easy to give a salesperson, you know, targets to achieve a monetary side of things. It's less easy to give, you know, someone who's administering, you know, courses or training KPIs, because they're different. They're all linked, I suppose. I mean, while you've been talking, Kevin, I've just been writing down, you know, I mean, like even Lee. I mean, Lee's head of operations for the business. I've got accountability clearly, you know, but Lee's got. We've just developed an organisational chart. So that's all part of, you know, again, the big plan. But we do that. We've had to do that because we're working to a particular training standard. But part of that exercise, I used your example with, you know, clearly there's the marketing, the sales, the operations. I use that as a base point to work off, and very quickly you've got Lee on one side and then me on the other. So, you know, all business related stuff is my bag, and obviously operationally is Lee. So when it comes to appraisals, Lee, I've already got you down for one of the KPIs is making sure we have appraisals obviously at key times. You know, that could be a KPI. You know, and such like, I suppose. I think it's different, but knowing, as I said, it's easy. The KPI for a salesperson is easier to quantify. It's less easy, I think, the higher you go up, because you're responsible for everything, you know, I suppose.
But say, it's not how high up you go. Every role has a KPI.
Yeah.
So the MD's KPI is profit. Yeah, the marketing is leads, the sales is conversion rate. Those two together is sales turnover. Operations is direct costs, efficiencies, customer satisfaction. So every role must have a goal. That's why I would say you know that it's a role because there's a goal and a metric.
Yeah.
General manager, you know, is not a role because there's no goal. What's the goal of a general manager? It's, you know, to manage generally. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
A general manager, you know, can be a title, but their role is operational. It might be finance. They'll have 4 or 5 roles with goals that they're actually responsible for. And that if you get clarity of that when you take people on, it will avoid so many problems later. Because people get caught up in, I love the title. I want to be a director. I want to be I want to be managing director. Fantastic, brilliant. The managing director is a part-time job. It should be a 3-hour-a-week job.
Yeah, you've one of those things actually. I mean, Lee and I've discussed this, and I am the director of the business, but I don't like that. It doesn't give a feel for what I do. You know, it's easy. You know, easier. Lee's head of operations. That's everything on the left-hand side of the organisation chart. I'm head of business. That's everything on the right-hand side of the organisation chart.
So directors direct. So your director role is probably an hour a day. We should be doing the strategy, reviewing the results, and making sure that the right people are doing the right things.
Yeah.
But then you've got to move down. Then you're a manager, because you're actually managing the people, and then you're actually the doer, and you're actually doing the work as well. That's why running a small business is so complicated, because you got so many freaking hats on.
Yeah. We've identified areas where we've outsourced, and then obviously in the future we've identified areas where as we grow, we might want to bring those in house and recruit people in those particular roles. But as at the moment, I think Lee would agree. We've actually we've got it in front of us. Now developing specific roles, responsibilities. We've got those now. The next stage is KPIs. We've got that for our sales guy. That's not a problem, and we've got the overall business. KPIs for marketing and sales goals, that's not a problem. So we've done that. It's now individual people, so they're accountable. Harriet, for example, you've met on these courses before, Kevin. She's responsible for the marketing plan, if you like, and making sure that, and scheduling posts and that type of thing. So we get in there with it. Most definitely.
Yeah. Cool. Good. Gary, are you able to contribute, or are you still driving?
Hello. Yes, I am here.
Cool.
Sorry, just trying to unlock my phone. Yeah, it's all very interesting. I'm where I'm at right now is at a point where I've just taken on a guy part-time on a 6-month contract because he's going traveling after that. But I found myself babysitting him quite a lot, and it's because he's very green on to site work. So we're doing painting and decorating right now. But it's just dealing with him and trying to manage and sort of encourage as well. And it goes back to having all those hats again. So I'm encourager, I'm manager, I'm boss, I'm disciplinarian, I'm all of those in one. And so it's just having a good balance of doing that without telling him off and making him feel small, and then encouraging him in it as well. So I think it's just learning people a bit better is where I need.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is also, when you take on less experienced people, okay, they are cheaper, but they're going to take more time. It's like when people take on apprentices. I can get an apprentice for £3.50 an hour. Fantastic, but don't underestimate the amount of time it takes to manage those people. The reason you pay people more money is because they've already come with the ability to take responsibility. So if we go back to this slide. I can make it work. If you go back to my above the line, below the line slide. Yeah. If you take people on that are down here, and this is not necessarily an age thing, it's an experience thing, then you're going to have to manage more than you would do if you take somebody that's already got the skills and therefore is going to be a higher ticket price. People that you pay a lot of money doesn't always necessarily mean that they're up here. Sometimes you pay them because they've got the skills, but they actually act like children. You've got some hard work, and you've got to sort that out. But you've got to understand that if you take people down here, it's going to be more work. People up here, it's going to be more expensive, but should be less work.
Yeah, I think in this guy's case, he's very keen, very, very willing. And if I pretty much ask him anything to do, he'll just get on and do it. So it's more the fact of there's room for improvement, and he's quite happy to improve and take on what I say. So yeah, I can work with that.
Cool. Good.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Kev.
Well, look, been a pleasure, guys. Thanks for your participation. And say in 2 weeks' time, we've got a customer mastery workshop. Until then, keep safe and make sure you put your learnings into action.
Thanks,
see you
Kevin.
soon.
Thanks for your time.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you,
now.
Kevin.